Have you ever felt a hollow ache after endless scrolling, as if something vital inside you quietly slipped away? What if I told you that each notification ping is engineered to hijack your brain's reward circuits, and that the very app you think you control quietly controls you? You're not alone. Millions wake up reaching for their phones before they even open their eyes, surrendering their attention to an endless feed of dopamine triggers. This is not harmless pastime. It's a conditioned loop. Every like, share, and comment floods your brain's pleasure center, reinforcing the habit until it feels impossible to resist. You might notice yourself checking for updates when waiting in line, at dinner, or even in the shower. That tug on your sleeve isn't curiosity, it's addiction. Think about the last time you put your phone down. How long did that buzzing urge linger? Ask yourself, are you scrolling to connect or to escape discomfort? Many believe social media is simply fun, but beneath that surface lie hidden costs, anxiety, sleep disturbance, diminished attention span, and a constant undercurrent of comparison that erodes self-worth. Consider how often you find yourself mindlessly refreshing, even after you promise just 5 more minutes. That promise betrays a deeper compulsion, the fear of missing out, the craving for validation, the subtle dread of silence without a screen. The truth is, you're wired for deeper human connection, not for engineered feedback loops. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny or repress. Here, the addiction to social media is a shadow cast by a deeper hunger for belonging and purpose. You may feel ashamed or powerless, but that shame is just another nudge back into the scrolling abyss. Imagine reclaiming those hours spent chasing fleeting pings, hours you could invest in genuine conversation, reflective solitude, or creative flow. Picture replacing that hollow buzz with real sensation, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the cadence of your own breath, the smile of a friend. But why does breaking this spell feel so impossible? How did you slip so seamlessly from conscious choice into unconscious habit? What hidden mechanisms are at play, tricking you into believing you have control when you're really trapped? The answers are closer than you think. But first, we must confront the illusion itself. You've been told that social media empowers you to connect, to stay informed, to express yourself. Yet behind every scroll lies a strategic design, a digital puppeteer pulling invisible strings. Think about the last time you tapped like. What felt personal was actually an algorithmic handshake, rewarding you for compliance. Platforms borrow from BF. Skinner's operant conditioning. Each notification acts as a variable reward schedule, sometimes a comment, sometimes a heart, kept unpredictable to lock you into endless checking. The real problem is not whether machines think, but whether men do. Warned BF Skinner, reminding you that your behavior can be shaped without your awareness. Algorithms learn your preferences, serving you content calibrated to provoke emotional spikes, outrage, envy, exhilaration. Recall how a single viral post can hijack your mood, flooding your mind for hours afterward. These platforms know precisely which visuals trigger your dopamine system, conditioning you to return again and again. And it's not just rewards. Negative feedback loops work equally well. You recoil at a snarky comment or unfriendly remark, prompting you to seek reassurance and validation in an endless cycle of comparison. You may believe you're in control, but true control has shifted into lines of code. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past, said George Orwell. While his words spoke of political power, today the same holds true in the digital realm. Those who engineer your feed shape your perceptions, emotions, and ultimately your reality. You might ask, isn't all of this opt-in? You clicked download and tapped sign up. Yet consent was obtained under false pretenses, presented as harmless connectivity rather than a sophisticated psychological experiment. Now, every impulse, every moment of boredom, every longing for social affirmation funnels you back into the design. Think about your last idle moment, waiting for coffee, commuting, standing in line. You didn't choose to open an app. The environment nudged you to. These micro moments accumulate, eroding your capacity for uninterrupted focus and authentic presence. What if you could pull back the curtain, recognize these tactics, and reclaim your autonomy? What would it take to see your mind once again as your own, free from the invisible chains of algorithmic manipulation? You've glimpsed the spell. Now the real question lingers. Can you learn to step away from the puppet master and reclaim your power? You've glimpsed the algorithm's hold, and yet there's a deeper current beneath your scrolling fingers. Think of the last time you hit refresh when you felt anxious or lonely. That impulse is not just habit, it is a whisper from your shadow, the disowned parts of your psyche that yearn for acknowledgement. Carl Jung called the shadow the realm of repressed desires, unacknowledged pain, and discarded aspects of self. When you dive into social media, you aren't merely seeking likes. You're unconsciously fleeing from inner discomfort, the nagging sense you're not enough, the fear that your true self might remain unseen. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, Jung observed. Those endless feeds mirror the void you avoid within. Think back to moments when your heart constricted at a friend's vacation photo or a colleague's career highlight. That pang of envy isn't trivial. It is your shadow crying out for integration. Rather than face the ache of unmet needs, authentic connection, creative expression, personal growth, you numb the discomfort with a tsunami of images and notifications. Each time you dismiss a negative emotion as just social media envy, you push your shadow further into the subconscious. Yet the ignored shadow does not vanish. It festers. You might find yourself snapping at loved ones, restless at night, or experiencing sudden surges of guilt after hours of mindless scrolling. These are shadows leaking into your waking life, demanding recognition. Viktor Frankl taught that meaning arises from confronting suffering with purpose. What if the ache you feel when comparing yourself online is actually a call to rediscover your unique value? That emptiness is not a flaw, it is an invitation. By shining conscious light onto your hidden wounds, you begin the work of integration. So pause right now and notice what surfaces when you feel the urge to scroll. Is it boredom, shame, loneliness, or fear of missing out? Don't judge, simply observe. Journal a single sentence naming that feeling. That act alone cracks the shadow's armor, beginning the process Jung called individuation, the journey toward wholeness. But integrating the shadow is not comfortable. You will encounter memories you'd rather forget, aches you've long ignored, parts of yourself you deemed unworthy. You may resist, telling yourself you deserve distraction. That resistance is the shadow's last stand, fighting to keep the familiar cycle intact. Can you sit with that resistance long enough to let it guide you deeper? Will you find the courage to face what lies beneath the scroll and uncover the authentic self waiting there? You've stared into the void and felt the pull of the algorithm. Now it's time to break the cycle and reclaim your mind through deliberate action. Begin with small experiments. Choose one daily phone pause, perhaps during your morning coffee or right before bed, and resist the urge to open any app. Notice the knot of anxiety that surfaces. That tension is evidence you're challenging a deeply wired habit. Next, create a phone-free zone in your home. Designate a shelf by the entryway or a basket in the living room where your device resides, out of sight and out of mind. Over time, this ritual shifts your environment from one of constant distraction to one of intentional calm. Neuroscience shows that reducing screen proximity lowers stress hormones and improves sleep quality, giving you back precious hours of undisturbed rest. Mindfulness becomes your ally. When the impulse to scroll strikes, pause and take 3 deep, grounding breaths. Label the sensation. This is craving. This is boredom. This is fear of missing out, without judgment. Naming the urge creates a psychological gap between impulse and action, weakening the neural pathways that fuel addiction. As Viktor Frankl taught, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. To rebuild genuine connection, schedule analog activities that nourish your soul. A weekly phone-free walk with a friend, an evening of journaling by candlelight, or a creative hobby like painting or cooking. Each time you choose presence over the screen, you reinforce new, healthier reward circuits. Soon, the satisfaction you derive from these offline moments will eclipse the fleeting buzz of notifications. Set clear boundaries for social media, perhaps limiting usage to 20 minutes in the evening, or checking your feeds only after completing a creative task. Use simple timers or apps that lock you out automatically. Each boundary you honor strengthens your self-efficacy, proving you can direct your attention rather than being led by it. Finally, Cultivate a growth mindset around digital wellness. Track your progress not by the number of notifications resisted, but by quality of life metrics. Deeper sleep, enhanced focus, richer face-to-face conversations. Celebrate small victories, like noticing the sky during your commute instead of your screen, and let them fuel your transformation. Transformation demands consistency. The first days will feel awkward, maybe even lonely, but with each mindful choice, you reclaim a piece of your mind from the relentless scroll. The question now is, will you continue to feed the habit, or will you step fully into your power, designing a life guided by intentional choice rather than impulsive reaction? Now you stand at the threshold of lasting change, a mind no longer fragmented by endless pings, but woven into a tapestry of purpose and presence. You've learned to interrupt the scroll, confront the hidden ache, and choose mindful alternatives. The final task is integration, weaving these practices into your daily life so that digital wellness becomes second nature rather than an intermittent effort. Begin by crafting a personal manifesto for your digital life. Write a few lines about how you intend to engage with technology, what values guide you, what boundaries you respect, and what experiences you prioritize. Keep this manifesto visible on a sticky note by your desk or as the lock screen on your phone, so that each glance reconnects you to your intention before you unlock your device. Next, ritualize reflection. Once a week, review your screen time logs alongside a journal of your mood and energy levels. Notice patterns. Perhaps evenings heavy with scrolling coincide with restless sleep, or mornings sparkled with creativity. Follow phone-free hikes. Use these insights to adjust your boundaries and activities. Over months, these small calibrations culminate in a self-designed ecosystem of balanced engagement. Invite accountability and community. Share your journey with a trusted friend or small group. Schedule regular check-ins where you discuss successes, setbacks, and new strategies. Just as group therapy amplifies individual growth, communal commitment to digital wellness magnifies each person's resolve. Celebrate integration with a digital sabbatical ritual. Every quarter, designate a full weekend unplugged. Plan analog experiences, a night under the stars, a cooking experiment, an afternoon spent reading poetry by hand. These sabbaticals remind you of life's richness beyond the screen and reinforce your new identity as someone who chooses presence over passive consumption. Finally, let this transformation fuel your broader purpose. As Viktor Frankl taught, meaning arises when we direct our suffering towards something greater. How might your reclaimed mind serve others? Could you mentor someone struggling with screen dependency? Create art inspired by your inner journey? Or lead a mindfulness group in your community? Turning your recovery into contribution completes the cycle from fragmentation to wholeness. The journey ahead will still contain moments of temptation and doubt. You will feel the old pull to escape into the digital universe, and that resistance will test your resolve. Yet each time you honor your manifesto, pause to breathe, or choose a real-world connection, you step further from that pull and closer to the authentic self you rediscovered. So here is the challenge. This week, identify one area where you still default to distraction, perhaps during meals, meetings, or moments of stress, and replace it with a conscious practice from your toolbox. A breath pause, a phone-free zone, a purposeful boundary. Notice how it feels. Then share that experience with someone who cares, inviting them to their own path of integration. Your mind is your birthright. It deserves clarity, depth, and freedom. The question is not whether you can resist the scroll. It's what will you create, feel, and share when you finally reclaim your mind.